Did Sakaris have the bass boosted on these? Because holy smokes, that bass on that intro was so loud in my ear. I could see Matt getting down to the intros and stuff. The Sakaris and Price intro is fantastic. And folks, this is Canucks Conversation, but Sakaris and Price had their first live show today. Be sure to go check them out. Give them some love as well. Grady, what time are you guys live? Sakaris and Price, what time do you guys go live now?
11:30.
11:30 over on the Sakaris and Price YouTube channel?
Yeah, Twitter, Facebook, soon to be Instagram.
There it is. Shameless plug for Sakaris and Price, who, of course, we share this studio with at the iconic Sheraton Wall Center. But this is Canucks Conversation. My name is Dave Quadrelli. That is Harmon Dial, our technical producer. You just heard him, folks. Grady Sass. And our intern is Lachlan Irvin, who is working from home today because that dang C-bus ain't running. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the win for the Vancouver Canucks over the fraudulent Leafs, as I wrote in the title. Oh, excuse me. Before we do that, I need to tell you about today's presenting sponsor and who won our contest last week. That is HSBC World Rugby Sevens, Western Canada's largest sporting event. This year is the 9th time that the event has visited Vancouver as part of the World Rugby Sevens series. From February 23rd to 25th, grab your friends and your best costume and head on down to BC Place to catch 12 women's and 12 men's sevens teams, including 2 Canadian squads, take to the pitch for 3 full days of jam-packed rugby and partying. Tickets are on sale now at vansevens.com, starting from just $40 per day. That being said, if your name is James Grimshaw, you don't need to go buy yourself tickets because you won our contest last week because you texted in. And folks, I know what you're thinking. Anytime you lose a contest, you're sitting there saying, damn it, why isn't my name James Grimshaw? But you have a chance as well, folks. You can still enter and win a 4-pack for the entire weekend. We're giving them away right up until the event. Right up until the event each week. That means that this week is another week that we're doing it. So text hashtag sevens, that's SEVENS to 778-402-9680 for your chance to win. We will be giving away a 4-pack each week until the event, folks. Text hashtag sevens to 778-402-9680. Geez, between the Sakaris and Price impromptu ad that I did, because Matt has the bass blasted on, or Blake has the bass blasted on these. I've done 5 minutes of ads here to start the show, but I've been dying to talk about this game, Harmon. Harmon, first of all, how are you?
I'm doing great. What a phenomenal game that was over the weekend. Fraudulent. Beautiful theater. I also love that it wasn't just that the Canucks curb stomped the Leafs in the first period. It was they gave their fans a chance twice to think that they had a shot to actually win the game. They got it to 3-3. Got it to 4-4, I think it was. Mm-hmm. Only for the Canucks to put the boot back down,
which was great.
Love it.
It was great. It was so much fun, and it's funny because I was watching this game, and it was one of those games, and there's more of these now. I think you can attest to this as well. Your friends are starting to start watching the Canucks again.
Yeah.
Hockey day in Canada against the Leafs. I had a few friends watching this game like, are the Canucks going to beat the Leafs? Are the Canucks better than the Leafs? And I said, yeah. Look at the standings. They're better than the Leafs. They are a better team than the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're gonna win, I think. And sure enough, that 3-0 start. I had friends who haven't watched hockey in years saying, wow, did they really just pay William Nylander that much? He just shied away from contact in board battles 3 times on 3 straight shifts. And then they're asking me questions about the Leafs, being like, are they usually this soft on every puck? And I'm like, yeah. They are actually. And then it resulted in 3 Canucks goals. Leafs came out looking a lot better, of course, in the second period. But yeah, friends who haven't watched hockey in years asking, oh, are the Leafs this soft on every puck battle? Are they this bad when there's pressure on the forecheck? Do they not forecheck very hard? Is this normal for the Leafs? These are friends of mine that haven't watched hockey in years. Meanwhile, you've got all the Toronto media out there. What's wrong with the Leafs? Do they need to fire Sheldon Keefe? What's wrong with the Leafs? What's wrong? Nobody's bought in for years on that team. Anyways, I don't want to start it. Fraudulent Leafs. Let's beat them.
It was also funny because in the aftermath of that game, Joshua Cloak, who's one of the Leafs writers at The Athletic, I read his post-game article, and it's so funny to see the Uno reverse card where they're writing about, from the Leafs perspective, how the Canucks have so many of the elements that the Leafs don't have with respect to winning those net front battles, playing with hardness, some of that intensity, especially in the first period. Now, to be fair, the Leafs did have almost double the shots the Canucks did. Obviously, score effects goes into that, but still, to have the Canucks sort of up there as the shining
Canada's
light
best team.
of what playing the right way means. Could you have imagined that a year ago?
No. I mean, I'm a giant homer, so maybe, but no, in all seriousness, no, absolutely not. You just like the thing is the Leafs aren't, and of course I'm making a joke earlier on what I just said, but the Leafs aren't always actually that soft, and they weren't in the second period. Like they smartened up, but why? When you have these guys who have been there for so long, this is the question I'd be asking if I was a Toronto media member. And I don't want to just talk about the Leafs for 10 minutes because the Canucks beat them down. We got to talk about the Canucks, but why is it that it takes you a period of getting your teeth kicked in and shying away from contact? Why is it that it takes you a period to get that under your feet? Like, it's one thing if the 2017 Canucks are having trouble getting started on time. That's one thing. But like, you need to start on time when you're playing one of the league's best teams. And that's what the Canucks are right now. And it was just funny to me that I was getting those texts about them being so soft on pucks and not forechecking and all that. And it was just like, yeah, that basically sums up the Leafs, especially come playoff time.
Well, one of the biggest advantages that the Canucks have going for them this year, especially as we talk about them as potential cup contenders, is their forward depth. Because let's be honest, the Leafs' best players were, up until the 2 power play goals, better than the Canucks' best players, right? Nylander was going. I don't think it was Matthews or Marner's necessarily their best night, but they still controlled play. Lottline got their teeth kicked in at 5-on-5. Yep. But the Canucks get 4 bottom 6 goals, a pair from Höglander, a pair from Garland. They control those matchups so heavily. Compare Vancouver's bottom 6 on paper, where you have 14 goals of Nils Höglander on the 4th line, Sam Lafferty, 10 goals on the 4th line, who the Leafs had to trade away because they needed to fit Ryan Reeves onto the roster, who was a healthy scratch for this game. Meanwhile, yeah, you look at their bottom 6 right now. They have Domi, Nick Robertson, Calle Järnkrok, Pontus Holmberg, David Kampf, who's taken a massive step back this year, and Noah Gregor. It's not the worst bottom 6 in the world, but it's not comparable to Vancouver's bottom 6, where, again, you've got all that goal scoring just on the 4th line. Yep. And then the Bluger Joshua Garland line has been one of the best third lines in the NHL. That's what saved the Canucks in this game, was their forward depth.
And when you look, Talk was asked about this morning, and I don't want to transition too quickly into stuff about Chicago because this was morning skate of the game against the Chicago Blackhawks tonight on Monday. Talkett spoke about how a lot of the players, Farhan asked him about how a lot of the players' answers end up at the end or at some point in the answer starts morphing into, yeah, and come playoff time, we're going to need to do that. And Talkett kind of pumped the brakes on it a little bit. He was like, no, we're not thinking about playoffs, that kind of thing. But he also did say, there are things that we're working on that we want to always be working on and never taking our foot off the gas because we're waiting for playoffs or anything like that. And he spoke about how they needed to work on things throughout the season so that come April, they're there and they're right there. And I think that's one thing that all of these playoff teams need is a bottom 6 who has an identity and can score. And I think for most of the season, as much as it's gone right for the Canucks, for most of this season at this point, the bottom 6 hasn't had an identity, right? Like they haven't gotten all that secondary scoring that you would have maybe hoped for. But right now, your bottom 6.
I think this is the best bottom 6 they've had in a decade.
No, I agree now. I'm saying most of the season because you think about the Bluger, Joshua, Garland line. Like that line wasn't together when did they get together? Like mid to late November. And that was when obviously the Canucks had their worst month of the season. But my point just being that now I think they have that identity. And the 4th line obviously is much more recent. The 4th line had no identity, I would say, like last week. They had no identity. And now you're starting to see them kind of, be able to be that energy line. Like 2 goals from Nils Höglander on the 4th line. He's doing it in such limited minutes right now. Like that's your identity, that you have those energy guys in the bottom 6 that can contribute at any given time. And hey, they can win their matchups not only by suppressing shots from the other side, but like outscoring the other side and really putting a dent on this game.
It's massive. And I think when you transition to the other parts of that game, one thing that I wanted to get your take on was looking at the way the Leafs climbed back and made it 3-3. Of course, the shots ended up being lopsided, not just at the start of the second period, but as soon as the Canucks went up 3-0, even towards the end of that first period, I thought the Canucks form started to slip a little bit, which part of it is natural because of score effects, but I also just don't think in general that the Canucks were executing their game plan very well. But when you look at the Leafs' 3 goals in that stretch where they tied it up, wanted to get your take on Demko's role in those, because of course he shut it down in the third period. He made the key saves when he needed to, but this is more like, I'm curious, the 2 Nylander goals in particular, because the McCabe Rush goal, the second Leafs one, that's a backdoor play. He has no chance. But the first Nylander one was a sort of spinning shot from distance. There was maybe a screen there from Myers. And then the Nylander Rush one where it kind of deflects off Carson Soucy. Should Demko have had those ones?
So I rewatched them just because I wanted to make sure I actually had it right. So the Nylander one, you're right. Tyler Myers is a minor screen, but Demko's also not anticipating the shot. And I would think, and look, Demko says he wants every shot back, and that's something Rick Tocchet alluded to in his post-game press conference. But yeah, I would think that's one that Demko should have. Like your Vezina caliber goaltender, yeah, he's got to have that. And it's just an unfortunate timing thing because you have Bertuzzi coming down on your right if you're Demko. So Bertuzzi's coming at you basically unprotected. So part of Demko must be thinking, okay, he might get the pass down low, and then I need to be integrated to that post. So, and look, we know how much Ian Clark trained goaltenders, how big post integration and their post play is. And just in the modern day and age, it's not just Ian Clark goaltenders. But you see Bertuzzi's coming down kind of on the wing. So maybe he's able to get a tip in because he opens up his hips and starts to face the middle of the ice, which would have allowed him to, if Nylander makes a slap pass, to deflect it in over Demko's right shoulder. So he is cheating a little bit to his right, I would say. I think it's a combination of that. I think it's also a combination of Tyler Myers having a minor screen in front of him and really just Nylander taking the shot when Demko really wasn't expecting it. So it's kind of like a perfect storm of things that you don't want to happen if you're a goaltender. But yeah, like that is one that he needs to have. And then what did you say, the McCabe one or the second Nylander one?
The second Nylander one.
Okay, now I'm watching it. Riley plays it up. Nylander carries it in over the. Oh yeah, that one's. I can't. I'm not gonna spend time breaking it down. You gotta have that.
I do think there was a.
Oh, it did deflect off
Soucy.
Okay, yeah. It deflected off Soucy. You're right. So look, that's a hard read, right? That's a really, really hard read.
Not only does it change the trajectory, it also changes the speed of the shot. So you're anticipating it going one way at a time that you're probably used to, and then it redirects like that. It's like a change up in baseball. It just completely throws you through the loop. Another thing on that first goal too, black puck going past black jersey. We've talked about Ian Clark's
I love it
for white pads because it's easier to spot the puck. Well, as a goalie, you have that black puck against the black jersey. Just another thing to kind of throw him for the loop when you have the big chaos giraffe standing in front of you like Myers was.
I love it. Okay, this is a question. Grady, stay on for a second because I want to ask you too. If either of you know the answer, has Casey DeSmith had a start in the black skate jerseys?
I don't think he has.
Because I was joking with you guys at the start of the year when I did the black pad story. I talked to Casey and he said, yeah, like I got traded. The equipment people told him he needed to get a black skate setup. So he did. And then after he found out about Clarkie's rule, he texted him or messaged him or whatever and was like, hey, I didn't know this is a rule. I can get new ones if you want. And Ian never responded. So Casey just rolled with it and he still got them. And I was joking. And of course I'm having fun, but I was joking with you guys at the start of the year. I said, I bet you he doesn't get a start because he has the black pad.
I think he has, just because there's been a lot of photos of him in game wearing them. Now they could be from
They've
warm
had
up.
so many here. I'm gonna do a search too. He did?
Yeah, against Minnesota.
Okay, good. That theory. I didn't want that theory to be right. But
my memory's terrible. I gaslighted you into that.
Well, I thought about it today because Demko gets the start tonight, and this could transition nicely into Chicago, but I still have a few things I want to talk about with this Leafs game. Demko gets the start tonight, kind of came as a bit of a surprise, I'd say, just given the opponent, given how little the Canucks are going to play over the next couple of weeks here. A little bit of a surprise that Demko gets this one, but now I would assume DeSmith gets the Wednesday start against the St. Louis Blues. But before we move on to talking about the game against those Chicago Blackhawks, let's talk about our final thoughts on that game against the Leafs. The big one that I had, Harmon, was just that the Lotto line really struggled at 5-5. And I know you've kind of already touched on this, how the bottom six really won them their matchups there, but they still found a way to make an impact on the game with the power play goals. And ultimately, those are the deciders. Those are when you need your best players to be your best players. And in a similar tone, Thatcher Demko starts to really lock it down in that final 40 minutes of play, really. Maybe not final 40 minutes, but he starts to lock it down. And really, when you need him to make those saves, he makes those saves. And that's something Ian Cole spoke about this morning at Canucks Morning Skate. But those are just my final thoughts that I wanted to get in there.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think with the Lotto line, what it isn't just last night. I think their form has only been okay at 5-on-5 the last 2 or 3 games. When I'm watching them, I'm noticing that they're not transitioning the puck up the ice with as much speed as they were when they first were united as a line. A couple factors there. First, I mean, you're never really going to lean on Besser to be a puck transporter. So really it comes down to Miller and Pettersson. And I think on breakouts, we've seen Miller turn the puck over a lot more than usual in the last few games. Plus, Pettersson is a player that typically has a dynamic skill to be a factor on zone exits, to be somebody that, whether it's with his outlet passing ability or just coming underneath and skating it up the ice through the neutral zone, I don't think we've seen as much of that. And I think the combination of that is why they've spent more of their shifts hemmed in their own end. Plus, I think they've gotten away a little bit. I think it even has to do with their slower breakouts that they're not able to create as much havoc on the forecheck, which was a big reason why they were controlling play, creating offense when they were first united as a line.
You have to hope that Chicago is a nice get right game for that line, right? And another line I'm going to have my eye on is the second line as well, but we'll touch on that in our preview of tonight's game. Before we do, I wanted to get to this quote from Rick Tocchet at today's Morning Skate, which, hey, guess what? I was there today. I made the trek out. I was there at Morning Skate. This is what Rick Tocchet had to say when he was asked about the Lotto line.
About your top line and their play 5-on-5, maybe the last couple of games, and where you think they're at.
Yeah, they haven't been good the last 3 games, like 5-on-5, and we met with them this morning, and they recognize it. But the one good thing is when they're not playing to their potential, they're coming up with a big goal. Whether it's they P scored in Columbus a big goal last game, that power play, they came up with big goals for the win. It's not like they're not contributing, but the 5-on-play, yeah, for their level of play, they got to raise the bar. When they go against Matthews or the top line, the McKinnons and that, they got to go head to head with these guys. They know they have to raise the bar for sure. But they're coming up with big goals though.
When you say raise the bar, you're talking about which end of the ice? What specifically?
I think 200-foot game, everything. I think everything. Playing the other team's best players hard, but also keeping pucks, supporting each other. It's something that they recognize. One
thing he highlighted there: when you're up against the best lines, that's your matchup line. They have no choice but to be your matchup line, right? And when you split Miller and Pettersson up, you kind of have the luxury of, okay, Miller's not on his shutdown game or Petey's not on his shutdown game. We'll go to the other guy. You don't have that luxury right now. I mean, you could throw the third line out. They could take anybody at this stage. But ultimately, when we look at it through that lens of, okay, come playoff time, what is this like? You need that line to be clicking. So you're hoping that tonight is a get right game. I should have told you, or I will tell you now, because I got to talk about it. This segment is brought to you by Wendy's Daily Faceoff Survivor Pool Game. Shots on goal, goals against average, and points per game can make or break your week, but don't overlook BPMM. Wendy's Bacon Portobello Mushroom Melt. Sure, it may not help you win weekly prizes with Wendy's and Daily Faceoff Survivor Pool Fantasy, but unlike my predictions every week except for last week, it never disappoints. So try your luck, but don't push it because the Bacon Portobello Mushroom Melt is only back for a limited time. If you miss it, you won't get a second chance. Sign up for Daily Faceoff Survivor Pool Fantasy today, sponsored by Wendy's and the Wendy's app. Harmon, 26 winners of the game last week of Wendy's Daily Faceoff Survivor Fantasy. I'm very pleased to tell you, you were sitting next to one of them.
I'm so proud of you, man. The one question I have, where in the studio are we gonna raise the banner?
I actually was thinking the same thing. I'm thinking right there. I actually think I might. I might do that. Like I might bring in an old baseball jersey that has my name on it, and then like put a piece of paper with the Wendy's. You know what? I'm gonna do that.
Please,
we'll post it on Twitter. I'm gonna do that. Yep.
It's been a long, difficult journey. I'm so proud of you. You went through adversity. a lot of tough times, but you never lost belief,
Mm-hmm.
and you turn it around.
Thank you. I appreciate
Like
it. And
a true athlete.
I'm looking to make a comeback today as well. I'm really hoping that I can make it happen.
You're on that
today.
Canucks trajectory now.
Yeah, and my pick today, because people are curious because I'm so good at this game. My pick today is Elias Pettersson to get 2 points at least tonight against the Chicago Blackhawks. Okay, let's get into our game preview for today's game, Monday, January 22nd, against the Chicago Blackhawks. Harman, is it going to be a trap game? Last time I think we said that was the game against San Jose Sharks. We're like, oh yeah, trap game. It was like 10-1.
Well, I told you it's not going to be a trap game because a team like I brought up Philadelphia early in the season. Like that's a trap game because they actually have some talent to give you a test. Whereas teams like San Jose and I know the Canucks did lose one game against San Jose, but Chicago without Connor Bedard, I mean, I'm looking on daily face off at their top line combo right now. Foligno, Kurashev, and Radish. Like you've got the only way the Canucks fall, I think, is if Jason Dickinson goes off for some revenge game, because genuinely he might be the best forward on their roster right now.
The NHL All-Star Committee didn't think so because you told me this right before we went to air. It just came out that there's no representative for the Chicago Blackhawks at this game, at the All-Star game.
Yeah, I saw a DFO article about it literally minutes before we recorded. So Dickinson, unfortunately, is not going to the All-Star game.
Yeah, things are bleak for the... I thought maybe Seth Jones would have gotten a shot.
Jones isn't even that good.
I know, but, the All-Star game, the bar is low, right? Like, if you have to send a representative of every team, who are they sending in his place? In Bedard's place?
They announced, I think, Trocheck and Connor.
Okay. Those guys weren't going originally? What the hell? Okay. Yeah, I have no problem with this. I don't want Seth Jones over there, over those guys. So that makes sense. I like that. Okay, so like we said, Connor Bedard is not in the lineup tonight. Thatcher Demko gets the start. Bit of a surprise there, like I alluded to, just because of the schedule, how few games the Canucks are going to play. I do expect Smith to get in on Wednesday night. And unfortunately, my theory about, he's not getting a start if he's got those damn black pads on, that one is not a factual theory. Unfortunately, we were able to fact check that pretty quickly. Okay. The Canucks did some PP2 work today, and I don't think I saw Nils Höglander out there. I'm trying to look back because JPat would have tweeted it, because JPat's Patterson's point this weekend was about excuse me. Yeah, here we go. Okay, sorry, I found it. Okay, Suter is still on power play 1, and Kuzmenko is working with power play 2. I got some thoughts on the power play. And I mean, maybe this is better for anyone else, but first of all, Nils Höglander needs to start getting power play time. He scored too many goals in very limited 5-on-5 minutes to be kept off the damn power play. It's time to get him on the power play. And P.S. Suter doesn't belong on power play 1. Like, he doesn't. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't think Suter has a finishing ability. I was genuinely worried through the first 10 minutes of that third period where the Leafs scored the shorthanded goal. And I'm thinking, Suter, it's not that I would have been criticizing him, but he had 2 glorious chances in the third period. First was an even strength one set up by Kuzmenko, who, shout out, he deserves credit for being on the ice. His line drawing 2 penalties, the second of which created the power play that led to the Canucks 5-4 eventual game winner. But Suter missed an even strength setup from Kuzmenko. And then on the power play, he had a pretty good chance that he didn't hit the net on either. I love a lot of parts of Suter's game. We know how smart he is defensively, how sound positionally he is. I don't think that he has the perimeter playmaking or shooting skills to fit on the first unit. And if Kuzmenko's going to be in the lineup anyway, why not have him on the first unit?
And it looked like Kuzmenko was starting to get his swagger back in that game, right? Like that game against Toronto, that's something we didn't really talk about. He started to make some plays. Like you said, he set up P.S. Suter for a really nice chance that Suter didn't finish. I agree with you. It's got to be Kuzmenko there. But I have an alternative for you as well on the power play. And Grady, you can go ahead and clip this. The people need to see this. Folks, we're talking about the Canucks' first power play unit and how P.S. Suter probably shouldn't be there. No disrespect to Pius, but probably shouldn't be on the first power play unit. This is how I would go with the Canucks power play. You got Quinn Hughes at the point. You got JT Miller on the half wall on a strong side. You've got Brock Besser in the bumper / high slot. Then you've got Elias Pettersson on the other side waiting for a one-timer. Can you guess who I want at the net front?
Hoglander?
Tyler freaking Myers.
What? Stop.
I've been saying it for so long. This is a prime opportunity to finally do it. They have done it with the empty net. I don't know if this is a design player, if it's just Myers going on his own accord. Myers had a fantastic game against the Leafs, by the way. That's another thing we didn't talk about. He was phenomenal against the Leafs. But net front.
Be
Tyler
serious,
Myers,
Quads.
I am serious. Do you realize how tall of a human he is?
Okay, what other team around the NHL has taken their biggest defenseman and put him net front on the power play?
I don't know.
There's none.
The Boston Bruins did it with Chara at one point.
How long did that last?
I don't know, but they won a cup. Do you remember that? They won
I
a cup.
don't. No,
They
2011 didn't exist.
Canucks did that with Zadorov a couple games
There you
ago.
go.
But it was they had the goalie pulled for the extra attacker.
Another thing, Zadorov is wider than Myers. So excellent point, Grady. I take it back. Zadorov net front.
I don't even know what to tell you, Quads. This is not a serious take.
No, facts and
No
logic.
NHL team does this on the power play.
Destroyed with facts and logic. You can't even have a comeback. Okay, Grady, do we have the lines here? Sorry, man. I forgot to pull these up. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, Grady, let's pull up these lines. These were the lines at morning skate today for this game. Forward lines remain unchanged. No real surprise there. Quinn Hughes, Tyler Myers is your first pair. Nikita Zadorov and Filip Hronek is your second pair. Ian Cole and Noah Juleson is your third pair. We haven't even talked about it. Carson Soucy out 5 to 6 weeks with what Rick Dhaliwal has reported is a broken knuckle. So that is not good news for Carson Soucy, who has only appeared in 21 games this season. Obviously, he returned after missing the first 2 games of the season. He returns, then he plays in 13 games, and then he's back out after blocking a shot on his leg in Montreal. I know people were asking if it was the same injury. No, it was a different injury. And the really funny thing is, Rick Talk was asked about it this morning about where the injury is, and he was like, upper body. And then like everybody knew it was the hand. So someone in the media pool was like, oh, well, it depends. And they were showing that his hands were below his waist, and Talkett loved that. Talkett started laughing. He's like, you're right. It depends. And I thought that was hilarious. But yes, looks like it's something to do with his hand, as was originally reported by Rick Dhaliwal. So the Canucks are going to be without Carson Soucy for 5 to 6 weeks. A big blow for the Blue Line, as Soucy was playing some really good hockey.
It's a shame because Soucy has exceeded my expectations since signing with the Canucks. I've been quietly impressed with his composure going back for pucks in the defensive zone, how well he's able to make that quick D-to-D pass, absorb pressure, because that's an area where when I watch a lot of the tape when the Canucks first signed him and I watched a lot of Seattle's playoff run, Soucy didn't have that same level of composure. It seemed as if his puck skills were pretty limited. And I remember thinking to myself and actually writing it that if he can get even just 10 to 15% better in those situations, you're talking about a player that I think could be a complimentary top 4 defenseman, complimentary second pair piece. And that's, I believe, what we've seen from him this season, not necessarily in terms of usage, because he's typically been in and around the 17 to 18 minute mark. But I clipped a couple of examples from the Arizona game where heavy forecheck, he's just able to make that calm next pass. We're not talking about needing to make the home run stretch pass or skating pucks away from pressure like he's Hughes or Hronek, but he's just making smart decisions. And it's such a big difference compared to last year, where it felt like any time Quinn Hughes was on the bench that the Canucks blue line could not move the puck. This year, there's been such a massive difference in the second and third pairs' ability to control play. Last year, with Hughes on the bench, the Canucks were minus 43 in terms of their 5-on-5 goal differential. It's wild. Yeah. So he's been massive in that sense. He's been massive in terms of his zone entry defense with his stick, his reach. It's unfortunate, but it again goes back to credit to the Canucks management regime for bringing in Zadorov for a cheap price, because you feel a whole lot better about the bottom four's ability to hold over and keep things running smoothly even without Soucy.
And as we saw there, it looks like Filip Hronek and Quinn Hughes are going to be split up, but Rick Tocchet spoke about getting Noah Juleson back into the lineup and the defense as a whole needing to do, you guessed it, by committee defense tonight. And he said we might not see these pairs all game long. So Grady, let's hear from Canucks head coach Rick Tocchet.
With Susie out, looks like you might need some new pairings on the back end. How confident are you in the versatility of the defenseman play with any partner back there?
Yeah, that's why we've done it throughout the year where we've split some guys. Whether Phil plays with Huggy tonight, we're not sure. But, the one good pair that before we had the other 6 in, but Juleson and Cole were a pretty good pair. And then, Kohler had to go to the right side. I think that's kind of affected his game a little bit. Now he's back on the left side. I think it's going to help Kohler's game. So we'll have a couple of different matchups or different pairs tonight at certain points of the game.
So
almost like a committee type of thing.
That was really funny. It was like he cut me off to jump in and say the committee part. But Ian
You're
Cole,
used to him cutting you off,
that's
aren't you?
right. Ian Cole on the left side. I like that was something that Rick Tocchet highlighted because we've documented and talked about Ian Cole's kind of slip in play that we've seen recently. But I hadn't looked at it from the perspective of, he was on the right side during a lot of those games. And like Tocchet said, Cole and Juleson, as much as we talked about Cole babysitting earlier in the year, that was a pretty solid third pairing.
Super steady, super reliable defensively. You never had to worry about them starting in the defensive zone off a faceoff, for example. And that's honestly a really important litmus test for NHL head coaches is if my third pair is trapped on the ice, even if it's an icing, for example, whether it's by necessity or even by desire that, okay, our first and second pairs are tired. We want to throw the third pair out there. Do we have trust in them with the defensive zone start? You never had to worry about Cole and Juleson in those situations. Plus on the penalty kill, they've typically been really effective together. So yeah, I understand why you potentially want to unite that pair together. And I'm curious about the potential in-game adjustments because we've seen games where the Canucks are, let's say, missing a defenseman and they'll show us certain pairs at morning skate.
Mm-hmm.
But then through the middle of the game, they'll mix and match, experiment depending on game state.
And he talked about that throughout the game. We're going to see different pairings. So it'll be fun when we come back in here tomorrow to talk about each pairing that we end up seeing tonight. Okay. Anything else on the game before we get to 4 wins and then anyone else?
Quick shout out for the PK. 5 for 5.
There you go.
I tweeted this out on Saturday after the game. They've been going at 87.5, which is tied with Carolina for third best in the NHL since December 20th, which is pretty remarkable considering how atrocious the PK was last year. So that's a massive part of why the Canucks won the game as well, right? You get 2 power play goals, and of course, one of them was negated by the Leafs getting a shorthanded goal, but you blank that Leafs top unit 5 times. It's really, really impressive work.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's get to our 4 wins. Light the Lamp contest. Sorry, I don't know why I was thrown off there. Yeah, it's time for Light the Lamp, brought to you by our friends at 4 Wins Brewing. And folks, I've been getting a lot of these predictions right lately, so let's do it. Wipe the nose. Vancouver is playing Chicago tonight, and we want to know who's going to score the first goal for Vancouver. If you nail it, you could win a $25 gift card to the 4 Wins Tap Room located at 72nd and River Road in Delta. Enter by following us on social media. Keep an eye out for today's show clip and comment who you think will light the lamp and score the first goal tonight. Winners will be contacted directly. Check us out at Canucks Army or at Canucks Convo on Twitter, at CanucksArmy.com on Instagram, and Canucks Army on Facebook. And make sure you ask about 4 Wins Light Lager at your local liquor store or have some delivered to your front door through the online shop at 4winsbrewing.ca. All right, picks, gentlemen. What do you got?
I'm riding with whoever you pick. You're the hothead. Literally.
I like it.
Well, let's not forget who correctly predicted
That's
the
right.
score from Saturday's game.
Yeah, that's right.
6-4 action.
Yeah, that's right. I like that. I really like that, Grady. Like, I'm glad you brought that up because I saw it got clipped. I thought because I saw you posted it on your personal, I thought you did a sponsored clip.
I should have tagged Betway.
Yeah, just Betway, check this out. I got the right score. But anyways, first goal scorer tonight. You're just riding with me. That's fine. I'm going to say tonight is Noah Juleson.
Oh,
let's ride.
That's right.
I will go former Chicago Blackhawk Nikita Zadorov.
Jason Dickinson watch is on. But I like that. I like that you picked Zadorov there. Everybody forgets, including Zadorov, that he had a stop in Chicago. Of course, I'm alluding to his interview that he did on the Drop in the Gloves podcast, so make sure you go check that out. Man, look at me being such a good company guy. I shouted out 2 different shows today. Drop in the Gloves in our network, and of course, Sick Harrison Price as well. Go check out those shows. And of course, I tell you about Rinkwide. Check out Rinkwide Vancouver after the game, post-game show with Jeff Patterson and me. I'm back on there. I'll bring the hot takes. I'll yell at Jeff about the Tyler Myers not being at the net front.
Filling in for Harm, who did Saturday's episode with J Pat.
Yeah, and then I'll be back on Wednesday as well.
You guys are like the spot rotation starters. Not to get a baseball reference in, but Quads, you know what I mean.
Someone was waiting for me to get baseball because as soon as I brought up Toronto and the Leafs, they were
why
like,
did I bring it
they
up?
were like, oh, he's gonna talk
no.
about the Blue Jays.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to the YouTube chat.
Speaking of the YouTube chat, a lot of really good interaction. Let's get those anyone else's in, folks, because it's time for Anyone Else, presented by DoorDash. It's our listeners' chance to get involved and hit us up in the YouTube live chat. And it's also our listeners' chance to get 25% off and 0 delivery fees on their first order of $15 or more when they download the DoorDash app and enter the code NATION25. That's all capital letters, NATION, and the numbers 25 for 25% off, up to $10 value, and 0 delivery fees on your first order. That's code NATION25. Offer valid in Canada, subject to change. Terms, of course, do apply. All right, what do we got here? I think we got a lot in the YouTube live chat today. There was a few that I really, really wanted to get to. Mikheyev Höglander could honestly be an interesting winger combo with Suter. This is from Pimp Handstrong. As always, the issue is what you actually do after that with Kuzmenko.
Yeah,
do you stick with, I think the bigger question, do you stick with the second line in its current form? I think you give them the game against Chicago. It's a good get right game for everybody.
Definitely, especially because you've been on such a heater this month. I don't think you need to start making wholesale changes. I do think that if the team starts struggling a little bit, not necessarily in this game against Chicago, but moving forward, and you need to rethink line combos, that Höglander, yeah, I do look at him as a player that you consider moving up the lineup to provide a bit of a spark, especially if you're still stacking the top line together with the Lotto line, meaning your second line needs an extra spark. But the commenter's right too, in the sense that if you bump Kuzmenko down, then you're again putting him in a situation where it's not the right role and fit for him, especially now that we saw him play a better game against the Leafs. So I'd stick with the current line combos for now.
Okay, this one from Nick P. Was there any interest either from Perry or Canucks management in signing Corey Perry, who of course signed earlier today with the Edmonton Oilers, or was that a total non-starter? Dollywall was reporting that the Canucks weren't interested in Corey Perry. And look, I got to poke a little fun. I was listening to 32 Thoughts today, and Elliot was like, yeah, I think I think Perry got some offers from some loud markets, and he got some offers from some quiet markets. And it's like, all right, thanks. So every team in the NHL is covered under that list. So we haven't heard anything about the Canucks having any sort of interest in Corey Perry, who, like I said, signed with the Edmonton Oilers earlier today. This one from Pimp Strong as well. Anyone else think the trainers and coaching staff made a massive mistake by taking away Kuzmenko's Nutella and waffles? When's the last time you saw him drinking Coke on the bench with a banana?
Well, I'm sure if you ask them, they'd point the finger at Bali, not the improved diet.
Yeah, I loved after Kuzmenko started struggling, and not to poke fun at the guy too much, but someone tweeted out, I don't know who it was. Someone tweeted out the video of him running up the stairs, and they were like,
"Oh yeah,
okay, are we all?" Yeah, they're like, "Okay, are we all ready to admit that this wasn't impressive?"
Well, I saw that same clip of him running up. And it was a joke about him running back up.
It's been recycled a lot recently by Canucks Twitter.
You know what? That joke was made after his game on Thursday.
Yeah.
It's like
kudos
people
to the training staff, or the coaching staff, excuse me, for getting him back in the lineup on Saturday. Like, I thought he actually responded really well on Saturday after a tough game.
Well, he was shifty.
Thursday.
Like, he was actually creating chances, like the penalty that he drew, and then he had the puck right before that other penalty in front that was on, I think, Mikheyev, one of the cross checks.
little bit of confidence, right? Like
Yeah.
a little bit of confidence brewing for him.
Yeah.
And look, like I said, it's Chicago. This should be a get right, grow your confidence game for everybody,
Well, it's
Yeah.
also
like
You wanna-
including us.
you want to juice his value, help him pad his stats a little bit. It's a good spot, a good team for him to play against. I mean, he has gotten some of his production against San Jose. Yeah, let him continue building confidence. And it's funny, going back to the original Bali thing, Taka joked in training camp that if Kuzmenko has a huge year, maybe they'll all be going to
Yeah.
Bali.
Yeah.
I don't think any Canuck is
No.
going to be allowed anywhere near.
Bali ban. It's going to be in all the contracts.
Well,
Do
just-
not go to Bali.
Just going back to the Chicago game, they split up Hughes and Hronek. Like, if there ever was a game to see how those guys do apart, tonight is probably your matchup. And I'm not saying like, Chicago's the type of litmus test that you would want to face, but now you can experiment. What can they build on this game? And then you got St. Louis coming up, obviously a much better team. We'll see how long that lasts, but an inferior opponent like that, you can kind of work it in a little better. Say if it was against like Toronto, for example, right?
Through that lens, I really like the idea of the defense by committee and splitting up these D pairs, right? I really like that through that lens that Grady just kind of outlined. Okay, a couple things here that I wanted to get to from the YouTube live chat. The first one, I'll be serious. This is from Wallach. He said, not going to lie, though, I'm stoked to see the Hughes brothers with Michael Bublé. That sounds super entertaining as all-star captains for the draft. I talked about this last week. I'm so excited for the all-star weekend, and I can't remember the last time I said that. Like, I honestly can't. Like, I think the draft is going to have funny moments. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a great time, I think. The all-star captains were Nathan McKinnon with Tate McRae, who used to date Cole Sillinger. I always have to slip that in. Also, speaking of our shows, I heard Harrison Price talking about Tate McRae, and like they referred to her as a YouTuber.
Oh
Yeah,
no.
don't worry. I got that on E's and O's.
I was like, oh my gosh.
I'm like, you guys should not be talking about her. You don't
They
know
should have
her.
called me in. That should have been a guest hit. I love Tate McRae.
Yeah,
I'll
you could have talked
Tate
about how
McRae.
she did that album shoot with the goalie pads on the wrong legs.
Yeah, that was tough. Although I heard a theory.
Oh,
So her brother played junior hockey. She's from Calgary. She probably knows which legs they go
she
on.
did it as like an yeah.
I heard a theory, and I think it might have been Ballack that threw this out. Or maybe it wasn't.
Well,
I
he
don't know
quote
who it was.
tweeted it,
He did. Ballack
Yeah.
had a huge problem.
and that went
with it.
viral.
But I think, and I'm only saying this because I like Tate McRae.
Yeah,
I
you do.
think she might have done it as a kind of like a
engagement farming.
yeah, engagement farming.
Yeah.
Like okay,
Perhaps.
well, these hockey bros might not listen to my music typically, but they'll be talking about it because
I
I
don't know.
put the pads on the wrong. I don't know.
I
I'm
mean,
just throwing it out
there's
there.
a lot of minor hockey parents out there that put the pads on the wrong legs
Oh,
just
yeah.
because they don't know any better.
Here's my take. Goalie pads look like they should go the wrong way. That's my take. If you're thinking about it, you see more padding, you're thinking, oh, okay, well, I'm going to drop on my knees. I would want more padding there. Once you put them on, obviously, it's a little bit different. You realize why they're the way they are.
It's the interior right on the knee, right?
Yeah,
is where
but
you get those
If you're a
layers.
minor hockey parent who's never dropped into a butterfly in your life, of course you're going to think, okay, I don't want my kids' knees to smash against the ice. So if there's more protection there, I'm going to put that side on there. So I'm just saying, shout out all the minor hockey parents out there. Good guys. Okay. What else do we have here? Okay, Mr. Joker. If Canucks make it to Cup Finals, would EP40's contract skyrocket to 13+ million?
Well, if they make it to the Cup final, first of all, I don't think anybody cares what that. If the
exactly.
cost is elevating. I mean,
Oh no, he won them a cup. He's going to be so expensive.
maybe the thing to keep in mind is Pettersson is now on pace to eclipse Austin Matthews' point totals in back-to-back years. Matthews got what 13 point was
Four.
it? Was it 4?
13.4 by 4 years is what I remember.
13.25.
There you
Yeah.
go.
So he'd be close, but the thing to keep in mind is Matthews has much higher goal production, and that's valued at a premium in contract negotiations.
especially that even strength goal production that he's so good at.
He'd be close. I don't know if he'd quite crack 13 flat, but it'd be close.
Yep. Let's not talk about Pettersson too much today and the trade stuff. And there was that quote from Rutherford on Friday where he unprompted brought up a trade, and it was like, whoa. Anyways, we'll dive into it later in the week. I'm sure we've got some days without Canucks games, but let's not talk too much about Pettersson and the contract. We're going to do our best. Okay, this is another one. This is about my take of Myers or Zadorov at net front. I can't read this name. Yeah, I straight can't read it. But this person said, wouldn't be a show without another whack idea from Quads. And then
Just one?
Nick P. Big brain strategy by Quads. Send out Myers to take stupid penalties so Petey and Miller can feast at 4-on-4.
Well, do you guys remember in the Chicago Vancouver playoff series from over a decade ago, they used to put Dustin Byfuglien at net front,
exactly.
and he gave
There you
Roberto
go.
Luongo
He actually-
nightmares.
There you go.
He actually had. Didn't he play forward?
Yes. Well, yeah.
So he was.
So
a
Tyler
forward.
Myers is supposed to be a forward.
He's not.
Discuss.
He's not. Stop this.
Yeah, I think Big Buff was still a forward back then.
And
then
you know
he
what?
transitioned over.
In a more serious light, someone said, Joshua is actually the better option for net front. Like, he's got the hands in tight to bury those rebounds. Like, if you're sticking with my strategy of throwing a giant person at the net front, which I think you absolutely should, Josh was probably the most realistic option. Are you sitting there saying, man, I really like P.S. Suter over Dakota Joshua?
I just think it's simple to get Kuzmenko back on the unit because, sure,
True.
Joshua's probably their best net front option among the alternatives, but it's not just screening a goalie and being able to rebound. You got to have the offensive IQ to read off of Pettersson, Miller, Hughes, understand when you're supposed to be screening the goalie versus when you need to kick out as a passing option down low.
Yeah.
When you need to loop around and be ready for the backdoor play, because they're always going to be looking. Like when Miller, for example, is coming down the left half wall, he's not just looking for the shot, he's looking for the shot pass, and you've got to be able to make all those reads. So you need a high IQ player on that first unit.
And we've seen them rotate on the power play. Like, look at the Pettersson goal from the other night, like side of the net. How often do you see him creeping down that low? Like, good power plays know when to rotate. And, is Dakota Joshua smart enough? First off, probably hasn't played power play in a long time, dating back to minor hockey or at least in college, right? So, that would take a little bit of fine tuning. And I think to Harm's point, like, you really want your high IQ players knowing and having the reps from all those years in the past, especially with the way the Canucks zip the puck around on that 5-man unit, kind of getting everyone involved with the puck touches.
Someone brought up baseball, but I'm not going to take the bait.
Don't take the bait.
I'm not going to.
How many days till pitchers and catchers report, Quads? Get the countdown going.
65.
Oh my God. You actually know this?
No, pitchers and catchers? Sorry, pitchers and catchers is way shorter than that.
Yeah.
Pitchers and catchers is like less than 30.
Harm, I'm just imagining like this guy's got a calendar next to his bed, and every morning he just grabs a pen and like checks it off. Like,
One day closer.
What? Yeah, exactly.
Well, Grady, I'm blaming you at this point. You asked him the question.
I triggered a bit. It's my fault.
So Moj, Bob Marjanovic, everybody knows him. Moj is getting me into a couple of his fantasy baseball leagues.
Oh, no,
He's hurt.
stop.
And Moj watches the show too. And Moj is a big baseball guy as well. So Moj is getting me into some games, some leagues that have been around longer than we've been alive. Like he was saying, yeah, this one started in 1990. I'm like, what? Was the internet even around in 1990?
A legendary 1040 moment, Mike Gillis and Bob Marjanovic. Is this Bob?
Oh, yeah.
No, Moj is going to kill me for that. Sorry, Moj.
Yeah, don't. You're going to affect if he'll make trades with me or not. You got to watch it, Grady.
By the way, fantasy baseball or fantasy baseball pools, I don't know how you do it. You have to manage it day in, day out.
That's
like
right.
You're picking up relief pitchers. It is a grind.
Oh, it's the best. If you're watching,
I guess for some sicko like you, sure.
If you're watching every game you can, and you're paying, anyways, I'm not gonna start.
Grady, this is all your fault. You kept the convo going way too long.
I'm
trying to dunk on the guy, but I'm just prolonging it.
Now I'm explaining how I look at relief pitchers. Okay. Anything else that you guys wanted to get to? Because we talked about, we briefly talked about the All-Star game. I'm just getting increasingly more and more excited for the All-Star weekend and, the skills competition and the captain stuff. Like, I think it's gonna be awesome. Also, I realized I was in the middle of naming all the captains. I got to Nathan McKinnon, then stopped to talk about Tate McRae for 10 minutes. So Connor McDavid is the other captain. And then, of course, Jack and Quinn Hughes are going to be co-captains. So last week we asked the question of, does he take Pettersson first or does he take Jack Hughes, his brother, first? That being Quinn, of course. But it's going to be co-captains, the Hughes brothers, which I think that's awesome. I'm excited, man. I'm excited for the All-Star weekend. Who's the fourth captain? Who am I forgetting? McKinnon, McDavid,
Matthews.
Hughes brothers, Matthews with Justin Bieber. So that'll be interesting. It'll be fun. Like it'll be a lot of fun. And you've got like global superstars like Tate McRae and then up and comers like Justin Bieber coming out. So anyways, I
also thought it was funny. The Canucks Army account tweeted out the GIF of Hughes smashing his stick.
Oh yeah,
after the Leafs had tied it, presumably, and the prompt was, "Why is Quinn Hughes smashing his stick? Wrong answers only." And one of the top comments is, "Because his celebrity captain is Michael Bublé and not Tate McRae."
That was me.
Really, that was you?
Yeah.
Shout out Grady.
Nice, Grady. Nice. I like Michael Bublé.
I like him too.
I'd like to get him on the show sometime. Anyways, okay. Yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm excited. And also, I did want to bring that up. I had it in my notes. I don't know why I didn't bring it up. Hughes smashing his stick there. That's such a rare sign of emotion from Quinn Hughes that we rarely ever see. And you have to think, when you couple it with Connor Garland's comments on Dropping the Gloves recently, where he talked about how Quinn Hughes is the engine of that team. You know, he's a guy that leads by example, all that sort of stuff. If that dude's smashing his stick and none of the goals were really his fault, everybody else on that team is stepping up for the rest of that game. And that's what we saw, right? Like I give Hughes a ton of credit as captain of this team. Really even keel guy, obviously, but also when he needs to show the emotion and really fire his team up. And maybe he wasn't even trying to do that, but just showing the emotion. I thought it was awesome from Quinn Hughes. I love to see that.
I just think he was frustrated. And one thing I'll say is, even going back to last year, I did a story on Hughes' emerging leadership before even all the captaincy talk started to crop up. And one of the themes that kept coming up was the idea that Hughes has been a lot more vocal in between periods when the team's not playing well. I think he's always had some level of emotion when the team's not going well. We just don't see him display it very often. Plus, the other thing that you see quite often with Hughes is just having conversations with him over the last couple of years, not just now that he's had the captaincy. He's taking on a lot more burden of, if the team's not doing well, I take that's on me, even though it's not my fault. Because I remember having a conversation with him at the start of last season. He brought up unprompted the fact that he was the longest tenured Canucks defenseman, how he had the big contract now, how he'd fixed his defensive game. So at least in terms of the own parts of his game that he wanted to fix, that like he had that down pat. The next step for him really was, okay, I need to be more of a leader. I need to take more responsibility for the team's success, not just my individual play. And I think that's been a mindset shift for him the last couple of years.
I love that. I think that's a great point that you've just made. There's one other thing. Oh yeah, someone asked in the chat here, do you think PD wins hardest shot again? So the skills competition is a little different this year, so we'll see what it ends up being. I'm not going to throw out predictions on winners because we still don't know everything about the skills competition, so I want to see more before I start talking about that. I just wanted to use this as an opportunity to point out, speaking of me being right, I don't know if you remember this or if I even told you this, but randomly I just tweeted out the morning of the skills competition. I said Pettersson hit this number last year. It was like 101 or something, whatever it was. And I said, what do you think he hits this year? I'm going to guess 103.2. And then the skills competition happened and he won it with exactly 103.2, like down to the decimal point. And I wasn't like doing any calculations or thinking. I was just like, yeah, whatever.
Vibes.
This sounds right. I'll throw this out as a prediction. 103.2 was exactly what he did in the hardest shot. And then of course people started to see that tweet from the morning and I had a lot of fun with that. So we'll see. I'll throw out some hot takes for sure. Don't worry, folks. I'll tell you who's going to win everything the day of. But speaking of which, I wanted to quickly hint at this. I spoke with Elias Pettersson today at Morning Skate ahead of the game against the Blackhawks. And it was just a one-on-one conversation him and I had, and he made a change. And I don't want to give it all away because I'm working on the story for Canucks Army, and I don't want Taj or Buck Foston or any of these guys to tweet it out. So don't tweet this out. But I did speak with him, and I don't even know how much I should say because if someone hears it, someone's going to go chase it and beat me to it. But I had a good conversation with Elias Pettersson today. I'm sorry. I'm going to leave it at that.
Why bring it up then?
Because I wanted to say more, but someone's going to get it. Someone's going to beat me to
I know
it.
where you're going with this.
Yeah.
one of his equipment pieces, isn't it?
Well, now you okay? Yeah. So, anyways, I talked to.
Let's play a guessing game.
Yeah. No. Stop it. Stop
That's
it.
it. That's all we're saying.
Yeah. I talked to Petey, and we had an interesting conversation.
Well, he's been
made some
tinkering
tweaks.
with things, right?
He has been tinkering. He's been tinkering. That's a fun word.
Yes.
Tinkering.
We're getting warmer.
No. Stop. We're done. We're closing out there. Oh no, Betway. Get to Betway, Grady. Our Betway Bet of the Day brought to you by our friends over at Betway. And Wallach's asking when that article is coming out. Like tomorrow. Like for people on podcasts, by the time you listen to this, it's probably already going to be out on CanucksArmy. I'm hoping they practice on Tuesday. If they do, I'm going to go talk to Rick Tocchet a little more. I might have to wait till Wednesday. I don't know. We'll see, okay? Don't stress me out. It's not about his wrist. People are now guessing in the chat. Nice job, guys. Okay, our Betway Bet of the Day brought to you by our friends over at Betway. Pull it up, Grady. Jason Dickinson. Over 1.5 shots tonight against his former team. A $10 bet at minus 125 odds returns you $18 over at Betway. Must be 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. That'll do it, folks. That'll do it. It's going to be a good one tonight. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be a good game for the Canucks.
I wanted to see, is he their leading goal scorer now?
Jason Dickinson?
Wow. He's actually tied with Bedard, period, with 15 goals.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. I mean, of course, Bedard's played 7 fewer.
Totally.
But still, who would have thought Jason Dickinson, 15
that
goals?
new contract, too. 2 years at 4.5.
$4.25 million cap hit. Good for him.
Go get your bag, dude. That's awesome. Yeah, like you said, generational talent leading the Chicago Blackhawks in scoring, and Connor Bedard as well.
Hey, you got to get to the cap floor somehow, right?
That's right. Okay, we'll wrap it up there. For my co-host, stop guessing in the chat what the article's about. For my co-host, Armin Dial, and our technical producer, Grady Sass, my name is Dave Woodrelli. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation with Harmon and Quads every weekday at 2 p.m. Be sure to check it out on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. And if you missed it, go check it out on your favorite podcast catcher app.